receive your slotter, the first thing you want to do is disassemble it so that you can get the chainsaw mounted properly. So we'll take these washers apart. We're going to unscrew the screws on the bottom that are marked with the black X. Take this apart, take two of the washers off, and leave two on. What you're going to have to do next is to drill a hole in your chainsaw bar. And you want it approximately in the center and approximately 4 inches from the motor so that there's clearance when you rotate the saw. So we'll put it like that. You've got two washers in the back, two washers on the front, and we go ahead and put the wooden block back on. Notice the lines here, you want to line them up. Put your washers, your lock nut, and your nut. Don't tighten it up real tight yet, just finger tight. Now we're going to flip it over. We're going to run these screws back in. Remember the screws that we took out with the black X's? We're going to run those screws back in. There's a rail here on one side. This goes against your 6x6 that you're going to slot. Make it tight against the edge of the 6x6 and even with the front of the 6x6. Now we want to screw this plate down to the 6x6 beam. Now we want to tighten this up, but we don't want to make it too tight. Don't forget, we want this to move freely, but we want it to be snug on the bar. That feels nice and tight. So we're ready to make the first cut. Once your chainsaw bar is vertical, you might want to put a little mark on this fixture so you know when you're at the right location when the chainsaw is vertical, maybe a magic marker or something. So then we come down. We're not sure that we've got the depth correct yet, the depth of our slot, so what we're going to do is move these screws. Here's your slot, as nice as a slot can be, wide. If you're cutting beams that are other than 6x6, you can adjust the slot by simply changing this rail. This is just a piece of 1x2. So you could either take this off and put a new one on, or take this off and trim it on the table saw in order to move the slot where you want it. As I said, this is set up for 6x6 beams, but quite often when you're working with lumber from a sawmill, a 6x6 is not really going to be a 6x6. This one is only 5 3/4. Sometimes they'll be 6, sometimes they'll be 6 1/8. So you have to kind of get an average, and if you have to adjust to get the slot in the center of the beam, it's easy to do. Just take this off, trim it. If you were cutting something much smaller, you could make that wider. But as I said, this is set up for 6x6s when you get it. Just a little bit deeper, all we have to do is when we set our easy slaughter on the beam, is pull it back 1/8 of an inch. Or it may be different on your setup. It depends where the saw blade is in relation to the pivot point. But in any case, it's an easy thing once you cut the first slot to determine where this should be positioned. What else can I say? It's that simple. It's that easy.